Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know, if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and that cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
What's up, guys? This is Alex from Alborn, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us podcast.
Alex, welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you for having me, sir.
It's great to have you. I'm looking forward to diving into your music now for the next bit. So we opened the show with Push. It's from the EP of the same name, which you released in February. Would you like to tell us a bit about the track?
So that song it's the single off of that EP. It's the one that we're pushing to all the radio and stuff. It's kind of the one that went along with this tour that we're out on at the moment. It was actually recorded towards the end of 21. We went out to Las Vegas over here in the US and recorded with a couple of guys that had just come off of fresh recording with a band called Korn. They did their Requiem album. And honestly, all I got to say about it is we're more proud of that song and the rest of the packaged EP that comes along with it than we've ever been with any of our early stuff. So we're really excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, I'm sure you don't head out to Las Vegas every time you're going to write and record. What was that experience like?
I mean, it was definitely new to us because beforehand we had always recorded in our local area. We had a producer we were working with that only lived like within an hour of us. But we got in touch through some mutual friends with James, Harley, and Chris Collier are the two guys we went out and recorded with in Vegas. It was just I don't know, it was a life-changing experience, man. Like, first of all, the trip when you're going with your three best friends was one thing, but then getting into the studio and working with people of that caliber that just, they've dedicated their lives to this. It was just a massive learning experience. And I have nothing bad to say about it. Only good things to take away. It was really awesome. And we made the best music we could out there.
You guys are currently on tour. What's the reaction like when you're playing those songs live?
It seems good so far. Like I said, the tour and the EP coming out kind of all together around the same time was pretty intentional. So hopefully at least a few people that we're playing to every night know the tunes, but they seem to go over really well, especially Push the Single goes over live really well, and get a couple sing-alongs and, hoping we can grab some new fans out of this tour, playing that music for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want. And you also released a pretty cool music video. I loved the visuals in it. What was the whole process like for the video?
Honestly, it was pretty easy going. We didn't really want to have anything too complicated or anything just to go along with that simple kind of just grooving song. So we just decided to go with a playthrough video. And we used a guy, his name is Alex Raser, and his partner, Brian Olivo. And they have it figured out, man. They made it so easy on us. All we really had to do was show up and play the song, and he just kind of directed us around and made it a really easy and fun experience for us. So it was a blast.
Yeah, yeah. And something I've noticed about you guys when looking into you, you're definitely a band on the way up. Things are starting to happen for you guys. Personally, what has the journey been like for you since 2016 to this point?
I mean, it's really been tough. We're all normal guys outside of this. We all work day jobs. We all have families and, all the home life stuff. So, kind of we're in this transitional period right now where things are starting to get like really rolling after we've been at it for so long. It's like you said, it's been a journey at the least, a lot of ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, man. This is what we're all, going after. This is all of our dreams. So we're just trying to make a reality out of it now. And there's plenty of good things and plenty of crappy things that happen, but you gotta make it all worth it. So it's been crazy so far.
Hopefully it continues for a long time now. I can't wait to see where you're at even at the end of this year.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to 2023, man. We're thinking it's going to be a big one for us. Hope so anyways.
It's looking that way anyway. At this point, we'll dive into your own personal music journey. So if you can you remember your earliest musical memory?
Like just as far as music in general, what really kind of made me realize that I wanted to be a musician was my dad. My father and Justin, my frontman's father, they played in bands together when me and Justin were growing up together. So I would spend like every Thursday or Sunday evening over at Justin's dad's house and hanging out with their band. And they were just in cover bands or whatever else, but just being kind of down there in the basement, hanging out with Justin and just kind of learning from those guys and stuff. That was kind of the tipping point to where I kind of realized that I really liked music and maybe wanted to do something with it someday. And that was when I was a real little kid, and I kind of distanced from it for a little while, and when I was going through, school and stuff. But then I worked a couple after school jobs and stuff, and saved up enough money to buy a crappy drum set off of Craigslist. And it was just it was off from there. And when I was a young high schooler, I kind of got together with Justin and we jammed together and played some covers every now and then, and it just kind of materialized into this. But yeah, I would say definitely from a really early age, watching our dads play in bands and bars and in the basement and all that stuff was kind of the earliest I can remember of it.
Yeah, they must be pretty proud seeing where you're at now.
Oh, absolutely. They're our biggest supporters.
I always say, your teenage years, it's when you kind of music becomes a very important part of your life, and it's when you find your community through music. So in your teenage years, what kind of music were you being exposed to by your peers, and how do you think it molded you into the musician you are today?
So I kind of always was into just like kind of your mainstream rock before I really started playing my own music. Like whenever I'd be riding around my dad, he'd always have Seether or Crossfade or something like that, playing in the truck. So that was kind of always my primary genre starting off. But then getting into high school and having so many different cultures and people to listen to different things. Like I like all kinds of music, but there was a lot of, rap was kind of, what was the main thing kind of taking over when I was in high school. But once I started hanging out with Justin, he's always been a rock metalhead. So he showed me lots of new metal stuff. He was one of the main people that exposed me to a lot of Korn, a lot of Linkin Park and things like that. So that was kind of where I started taking influence, and that was where my rabbit hole for rock and metal music started, was kind of the new metal genre. Then after that I started diving into Slipknot and Mudvayne and stuff even heavier beyond that. But I would say my main genre that I listen to now is always going to be hard rock and metal. And kind of when I started hanging out with him was when that, I really got exposed to all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And your concerts now, concerts you've attended, what concerts would you say have made you?
I would say just like raw show being awesome, because I'm a sucker for a good like production and light show and all that stuff that complements the music itself. I would say when I saw Tool a few years back was like that was just a crazy, it was like a freight train hitting me. It was an outdoor venue, and we watched them to probably 10,000 people, but I just happened to be at the right spot where kind of the sound coned in and hit me perfectly. And I like the sound of the outdoor venues. Other than that one, I would say Gojira was another one that was really, really good. They just had a nice raw, punchy sound that I've always been kind of gravitated to. And then on that same festival with Gojira, Thrice was playing on the other stage a little bit earlier in the day. And they were another band that I didn't really know much about Thrice before I saw them live, but they put on a really killer live show, and that kind of turned me into a fan. And I've been listening to their music pretty regularly ever since.
And your own shows then, for any listeners that haven't caught one of your shows, what can they expect?
So we're a really kind of raw old school style band. I mean, we don't run any like samples. We don't play to clicks or anything, not yet anyways. So everything you hear from us when we're on stage is something that somebody is playing. It's not something heard over the PA or anything. We just kind of like to maintain that intimacy with the crowd, to where it's like, we're working for you and we're working with you to try to make the best experience for everybody, them and us included. So we really try to bring that out in our music and our crowd interaction between songs and during songs and all that stuff. So that's kind of the premise of how we like to run our on stage time.
Yeah, yeah. And you've shared the stage with the likes of Shinedown, Seven Dust, Buck Cherry and Plush. You're currently touring with Powerman 5000. When you're playing with bands on that level, what do you learn?
You definitely learn a lot of road tricks. So like this Powerman tour that we're on now is a little bit different, because a lot of the other shows that we've shared the stage with bigger bands like Shinedown and Seven Dust have been kind of like one-offers. So you don't see a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff that they do. But like the Powerman stuff is just like the crew that is traveling with them. They're so nice and friendly, and they kind of taken us under their wing, so to speak, and just given us a lot of tips and tricks on just making it easier, because it's tough out here. So like just quicker ways to set up your gear and tear it down, and little merch tricks, and kind of how to get people to gravitate towards you a little bit better, and just general things like that, really. But like I said, a lot of like the Shinedown and Seven Dust, pretty much all you learn from them one-off shows is when you're watching them on stage. And those guys are they're getting older now, so they've been in the industry for years and years, and they still thrash and throw down just as hard as they did when they were 18 years old. And I think that's that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away is, you're an entertainer. You're not just a musician. So if you're going to play live shows, you gotta look the part when you're up there and be moving around like crazy and just having fun, even if you feel like shit. So
yeah. And how would you imagine you'd maintain that level of energy and just value in your performance as you get older?
So yeah, we've been told a lot by the Power Man guys that taking care of yourself early on in life, just trying to keep a clean diet, stuff like that. And I know you hear all the stories of bands that they've run on hard drugs for the last 20 years, but I know that we wouldn't be able to do that. So just trying to stay healthy and motivated in the off time. The off time is just as important as the time that you're on stage, just to keep your sanity and your mentality and physicality up to par, because you really want to be able to give it your 100% when you do hit the stage, and you don't want to waste any of that energy when you're not on it. So
is there a gig that you've played or a gig experience you've had that you would revisit over and over again as maybe the perfect show?
100%, I would say the Shinedown show that we played, because how that came about was there's a big outdoor fair in our area called the Mississippi Valley Fair, and we got entered into a battle of bands that if you won, the prize was that you would get to open for Shinedown, at that event. So we did the battle of the bands and won it. Well, because it was in our area, we'd been playing in the kind of the general area is called the Quad Cities, is where we're from, and that's who puts on the Mississippi Valley Fair. And so a lot of that crowd was people that have already been fans of us for years. So yeah, the Shinedown show was probably my number one, just because of the size of the crowd. It was a new experience playing to anything that massive, and we had so many of our regulars come out and support us and stuff, and it was just awesome to see. Kind of that size and that crowd response was just unlike any other experience, and the goosebumps that I had the entire time, it was just like the greatest feeling in the world. So I would do that every night of the week over and over.
I'm not surprised. And to flip it around then, out of every gig you've played, is there one that maybe you'd say was the worst experience? It just didn't go right, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, to name just one, I probably couldn't, because we've been playing so many shows for years, and like we started out as a cover band, so we kind of played quite a bit of dumpster shows to kind of get where we are and kind of wean through all the crap. But we did a lot of just kind of dive bar shows and stuff that sometimes people would show up, sometimes they wouldn't. But I'm, if I can attest anything to your question, I would definitely say we're glad to be out of those early stages of just playing, any show that you can pick up in the area, playing to the same 10 drunk people in the same bar weekend after weekend,
Yeah. And as a band at your level then, how do you approach finding gigs and getting on tours?
So fortunately, our local area is very lively. The Quad Cities, there's so many cool venues and so many active promoters and stuff that we really don't have to seek out like weekend shows or local shows. Like our calendar just kind of fills itself up early on in the year because there's so many venues to play at, so many new crowds to see. But as far as tours go, this is our first full length. It was actually an offer that came through to us through a company that we're working with to push the EP called Pavement Entertainment. And it was those guys were kind of the middleman that connected us to this tour. So I would imagine we will definitely be picking up more offers that same way later on once we finish this one. But being as this was our first one, that's really the only one that I can attest to,
Yeah. And when we're speaking of touring, what kind of antics do you guys get up to backstage behind the scenes?
Nothing too crazy so far. It's honestly been a lot of miles on this first leg. Like this is our first travel day, and we're on the 7th day of tour. So it's been just driving to the venues every day and hanging out in the alley, in the van before it's time for load in. And then usually, by the time we get all of our gear loaded in, and pre-stage set up and sound check and whatever else, honestly, we either hang out at the merch booth and just wait for people to come talk to us, or go take a little nap. But that's about as crazy as we've gotten so far.
Right. Very sensible.
Yeah.
And When it comes to shows, what's your pre-show and post-show ritual? How do you psych yourself up, and then how do you wind down afterwards?
So pre-show, our big thing, at least recently, has just been stretching. We're a very active band on stage. You know, you'd be lucky to catch a picture of us standing still. Especially my front three guys, they're going bananas all the time, and then I'm being as lively as I can from a sitting down perspective. So you got to make sure to stretch out the muscles if you're going to be doing it every night. And then just make sure you get your water intake, because you're going to sweat your ass off while you're up there. But then for like on this tour, when we've been playing every night, most of the time our equipment's just kind of like set up in front of Powerman's. So we got to rip it all down right when we get done, so they have room to get up there. So honestly, that takes up most of our wind down period that we would have otherwise liked to have, but we don't mind. We just get it all out and get everything broken down and packed up, and then we head straight to the merch booth and talk to anybody that wants to come up and give us feedback, good or bad, or buy anything from us. Kind of building relationships and making conversation with people is a big thing that we like to get into, especially after the show, when we that's kind of all we have left to do for the night.
Yeah, definitely. That could be actually one of the best parts, is meeting the people at the merch booth afterwards.
Yeah, 100%. We just kind of love any little things that they picked out. We love specific situations that they saw that they liked or disliked about our show, so that way we can take it into consideration and either capitalize on it or work on it.
Yeah. Here's one actually off the bat. I'm sure it rarely happens, but say someone comes up to the merch booth and they're very critical, didn't really love you guys. How do you turn them into a fan?
Wow, that is kind of one off the bat. I mean, all we can kind of do is just be understanding, because it just depends on their attitude. And if they're already going to be, if they're argumentative and just kind of want to talk smack, that's different than somebody that's actually looking to give you constructive criticism. So honestly, like usually most of the time they'll tell you, instead of doing this, I would have done this. So like if it's something that really kind of makes sense for them to have said to us, if it's something that, was like, oh, okay, he could actually be right about that. We just have to, kind of look at it after the fact and just kind of discuss it, amongst us and see what we can do to make it better. And hopefully, the next time that person comes to a show, if at all, then they'll see, they'll see that adjustment and that we took their word into consideration.
Yeah. And, say 30, 40 years time, you guys are old and grey, probably playing gigs in the nursing home at that stage. What needs to have happened for you to look back and feel fully fulfilled and happy with your career?
So honestly, our kind of our motive right now, which I'm sure it's going to change down the road, but our motive right now is just to become self-sufficient. Because we kind of every now and then we create content on the side. So really just being able to do this full time as a career to start with is kind of where we're at right now. But really just stability is kind of the magic word right now. Kind of figuring out a way to be able to make enough influx to keep this thing moving and turn it into a full-time thing is really kind of where the heads are at.
Yeah. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, what are your future plans for the rest of the year? What's set in stone?
Really, we want to play as many shows as we can this year, just because even today, just kind of still feeling the effects and the impact that everybody trying to do this took when COVID hit. So just trying to get back into playing as much as we can, whether it be local shows. Hopefully we get a couple more tour offers come through, and then eventually, I think towards the end of the year we would like to start working on some more music, because we would like to do a full length here. Nothing set in stone as far as when that will happen, but that's kind of that's coming up on deck hopefully real soon.
Yeah. And how long do fans overseas have to wait before they might get a chance of seeing you?
That I have truly no idea. It's up to their U.S. neighbors to say they like us enough for it to make sense for us to hop on a plane.
Yeah. Well, hopefully sometime soon anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, we'll dive into the last couple. So if you could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
It would definitely be Lane Staley, I'm sure. because my mother was actually one of the few people that I know personally that got to see him. And she said it was just the way that his voice booms off the stage and the way that he behaves on stage. It was just like he was born to do that. And he's, you know, him and his band, Alice in Chains, have always been a huge influence on our lyrical and musical perspectives. So I just think he's probably the top tier guy for me.
Yeah, completely understand. And next one, if you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
It would probably be Danny Carey from Tool. I'm sure within the first couple hours, he would probably already be giving me a headache with all these weird time signatures he came up with. But I've watched a lot of interviews and stuff of that guy, and he loves his craft. So I don't think it would, you know, I don't think there would be any short of breath, just sitting there and talking about music and drums and his career. Like it would, you know, 24 hours probably wouldn't be enough with that dude for
me. Probably not. And the last one. So what song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
The soundtrack to my life. Well, honestly, I probably wouldn't be able to choose just one song. But the Deftones record, Koi no Yoken, would probably play on repeat. You know, if I had to listen to one thing all the time, that was just a record that I kind of discovered right when I was really trying to get serious about figuring out what I wanted my influences to be and stuff. And just, you know, that album's kind of a perfect 10. It's hard to say anything bad about it. So I would just let that play from cover to cover with you, to be honest.
Has to be that one. So listen, Alex, thanks a million now. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and best of luck with the rest of the tour.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it.
All along I was on my own side, thought I had to get away from
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.